Many members of my community were arrested in London on Saturday, including a senior priest, an elderly Jewish man, a teacher who has spent years with Gazan children and has witnessed the horror of seeing them killed by Israeli troops over the last couple of years. These people are not terrorists. While I'm sure everybody in the House would agree that anybody attacking serving police officers in the streets deserves to be arrested, does the Minister accept that the use of counter-terror powers is wholly disproportionate to the peaceful action these people were taken by simply holding signs and sets a dangerous precedent for free speech?
Minister.
I don't accept her critique about the precedent with regard to free speech for the reasons that I've already referenced and the tens of thousands of people who were on the streets of London this weekend expressing their free speech. The police have difficult judgments to make. I don't accept our analysis that this wasn't proportionate. The government has an absolute responsibility to act when the evidence suggests that we need to take decisions in order to secure the public safety.
I have written to the former Home Secretary twice on this matter because many legislators here today have yet to see the evidence which satisfies us about the proportionality of the application of the prescription of Palestine Action and indeed the public's right to protest and freedom of speech and the balance of which government holds that. If I could encourage him to review this law, not least because it has, according to what the government wants, a contrary impact because, of course, the more arrests, the more it's drawing attention to Palestine Action.
Hundreds of peaceful protesters have been arrested this weekend in the name of national security. But in what way does a peaceful protester's tactic of holding a banner compromise national security? And if the aim of national security is to fundamentally ensure that we can live in a free society where our democratic freedoms are protected, can the Minister not see that the mass arrest of peaceful protesters is an authoritarian measure that undermines these freedoms and does not protect them?
Look, I completely acknowledge that the concerns that the Honourable Member has expressed are entirely genuine and well-meaning. I hope that he understands the importance that we attach to the rule of law. And we don't think that people should be accepted from the rule of law because they are of a particular age or because they have a disability or because they have a particular professional background. That would be entirely unfair. Nobody is above the law. The police have a difficult job to do in order to police these particular protests. I would just also gently say to him that the protests that we saw over the weekend in this regard were not entirely peaceful. 33 arrests, including 17 for assaults on police officers. I hope that none of us want to see that kind of activity in our capital or anywhere else for that matter.
Mr. Speaker, many of those arrested over the weekend for simply holding placards were older and disabled citizens and human rights activists who can hardly be described as terrorists. Considering that the UN Human Rights Chief has warned that prescription dangerously conflates protest with terrorism, does the Minister at least accept that we run some risk of suppressing protest and dissent through which we obtained many of our freedoms that we enjoy today?
Minister.
I really don't think that that is the case. At every stage of these proceedings, the government has been absolutely clear about the important right, the cornerstone of our democracy, for people to protest about matters about which they are concerned. This government hasn't done anything to get in the way or prevent people from doing that. We saw that this weekend. Tens of thousands of people having their say. They were able to do so in a way that was lawful and didn't require them to be arrested because they hadn't broken the law. I don't accept the analysis that some have offered that this has a chilling effect on free speech. Quite the opposite. I think it absolutely demonstrates that people can come and demonstrate in a lawful way and the police will respond in an appropriate manner.
I fully agree there can be no place for violence in our politics. But would the Minister accept that elderly retired priests and disabled veterans would not be protesting in the way that they are if they genuinely believed that Palestine Action was a similar organisation to ISIS or Al-Qaeda? And can he provide any additional guidance or advice on how members of the public can legitimately protest against the prescription of this organisation?
Minister.
Look, firstly, let me say to him that the government, and certainly not myself, are seeking to make the comparison that he has offered. But what we do believe is that people should follow the law. And it is a criminal offence to seek to support a prescribed group. So the police are doing the job of ensuring that the law is enforced. I do, again, make the comparison that if it were people protesting about other organisations, about extreme right-wing ideological or Islamist organisations, then I think certain people, certain commentators, not in this place but outside of it, would seek to view this matter in a different way.
It's a shame that the Home Secretary couldn't come today to defend her government. Over 1,600 people have been arrested since this Labour government prescribed a non-violent direct action group for the first time in British history. This includes elderly people, disabled people, priests, NHS workers and the children of Holocaust survivors. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has condemned this prescription as disproportionate, unnecessary and warning it risks creating a further chilling effect. So will the Minister finally admit that his government got it wrong, that they have threatened and undermined our free speech and right to protest, and that they will review and immediately lift this ban?
Well, firstly, the Home Secretary is meeting with our Five Eyes allies who are here for the five-country ministerial. That is incredibly important work, securing our alliances with our United States, Canadian, Australian and New Zealand allies. These are important partnerships that this government values and that this Home Secretary is investing in almost on her first full day in office. In terms of the other points that she seeks to raise, the Honourable Lady has an absolute right, as everybody does, to protest in a lawful way. There is nothing that this government has done to prevent her or anybody else from doing that. What this government has done is ensure that we are best placed to protect the public. I'm sorry that she doesn't agree that. That is her absolute right. But I maintain the support for freedom of speech. It is a cornerstone of our democracy. And this government will always enable people to have their say.
I wonder if the Right Honourable Member would agree with me that the continued mass arrests of peaceful protesters, many of whom are protesting about the prescription of Palestine Action, but would not for a moment support the activities of Palestine Action, is something that we should distinguish and something that we should be advising prosecutors and the police about. Not least because the furore around these arrests risks drowning out the rightful protests about the difficult situation in Palestine and Gaza that he himself has referred to.
Well, I think the Honourable Member does raise really important points. I mean, for clarity, it's an offence to display support for Palestine Action, but it's not an offence to criticise the government's decision to prescribe. Some difficult judgments often have to be made by the police on the ground, but let me give her a categorical assurance that this government will do absolutely nothing to get in the way of somebody's absolute right to protest about a matter about which they are concerned. And in many respects, I think it was incredibly heartening to see tens of thousands of people take to the streets, express their concern, but do it in an entirely peaceful and lawful way. And I hope that that will long continue.
Sir Julian Lewis.
As I've indicated previously, I have my doubts about whether the terrorism label is most suited to a group which is certainly criminal, certainly violent, and arguably seditious in its attacks on the assets of our military. But I have a positive suggestion to make. Would the Minister undertake fully to brief the chairman and members of the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament, which I used to chair but on which I now no longer serve, because if they were able to see information that he can't share publicly and to say to us that they were satisfied with the terrorism designation, I for one would find that reassuring.
Minister.
Well, I'm always very grateful to the Right Honourable Gentleman who speaks with a real wisdom about these matters. I can give him those assurances. We have been in contact with the committee that he used to chair. They consist of some incredibly experienced and wise parliamentarians, and we seek to take their counsel at every opportunity. So yes, we have engaged with them and will continue to do so about this and other matters.